Bruce Marziani, New York Real Estate here, another video. So, what you may be wondering, like, how do I go about hiring a home inspector? What is a good approach? What do you recommend? Well, similar to hiring an agent or hiring any other professional from any of my other videos, definitely take a look at those as well. But to start off, I would say asking some important questions is important. You're going to be randomly calling some of these home inspectors on the phone, right? Check out their reviews. Are they on Google, and are they being rated on Google? If they have ratings, read the ratings. Are they on Yelp? Are they on Angie's List, or what's now being called Angie's? If so, and then they're being rated, read the ratings, right? Now, these are randomized ratings from past clients that may or may not be applicable to your situation, but it's helpful. I mean, if you have someone that has 100 ratings and 3 or 4 of them are bad and the rest of them are above average, then that might be somebody that you would consider going with. If if they have 100 ratings and 95 of them are bad and 5 of them are good, then that might not be someone that you would want to go with. I understand that these are probably exaggerated views on how ratings go. Usually it's not like all or nothing like that, like the way I'm describing, but I'm just suggesting you can try the online ratings. I'm of the belief system that online ratings are not a perfect representation of how helpful or not helpful a professional is, but I think that it's one metric, and I think you should look into it. You can also see if that home inspector is someone who's been in the business a while. It might be important to have someone that has a lot of experience. That way they don't overlook anything. You can ask them, do they belong to any additional organizations? So, like, for example, the American Society of Home Inspectors is an organization that they could belong to, and to consider themselves to be a member of that, they have to do extensive coursework above and beyond that of the New York State minimum amount of coursework that has to be done to be a licensed home inspector. So in other words, it's substantial additional coursework, and you might begin to anticipate that if they're doing that, they could be very well trained, and it might be something worth looking into. There could be other organizations as well that a home inspector could belong to. I'm just naming one that I know of. You can ask them, have they been working in your area for a while? If you have a local person that's been working in that area for the last 25 years, maybe that's important to you. That might be good to know, comparatively speaking, to someone who was just sort of recently came into New York State, that was like looking in a market where home styles and real estate is practiced completely differently. Your familiarization as a home inspector, your familiarization with the market can be quite helpful. I would certainly, if your agent is recommending the home inspector, then I would assume that the home inspector is very, very good, because we're not going to recommend somebody that we don't think is good. But I would ask the agent, you're recommending them. Why are you recommending them? Did you have a good experience with them? Or are they nice? Do they do a good diligence for your clients? Are they very detail-oriented and thorough? Thoroughness is an important part of being a home inspector. I would also ask them, I know this sounds very, very like, why the heck would I even have to ask something like this? But please ask it. There's a huge, huge collection of home inspectors in the markets that I serve that, for whatever reason, they don't want to do anything with the roof of the home. They just sort of stand down in the driveway, or stand out in the yard, or stand sort of away from the home a little bit, and they look up at the roof and they give you a rough idea of what they see, and then they might put a note in the inspection report that says further analysis of the roof with a professional roofer might be a good idea, or I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the effect of, hey, I didn't really look at the roof. I'm not going to look at the roof, like hire somebody else to do it. I don't personally understand that, because the roof is a very, very important part of the inspection process, and any inspector that I recommend would be one that would preferably get a ladder and go up there and look at it, or get a selfie stick and, push the camera up to the top of the roof and, look at it that way, or fly a droid if needed. But they're going to do something to get like close-up views of that roof, and they're going to inspect it themselves. They're not going to, just recommend that somebody else does it. Now, if there's damage to the roof, I can understand they can put a note in the inspection report that says, further viewing by a roofer is recommended. That I'm fine with, but if they didn't even bother to do the initial work themselves, that's just not something that I would recommend. I don't understand it. And there's a huge collection of people that do this. So getting to the question, if you're interviewing an inspector on the phone, definitely ask them, hey man, the roof is very, very important to me. How do you inspect the roof? Do you go up there? Do you do the camera views? Like what do you do? Right? And if they're like, hey, I don't go up there, I don't really do anything with the roof, that's a roofer's job, or whatever. If the response is uncomfortable to you, that might not be someone that you would want to hire, right? There are also inspectors that have additional certifications for termites and pest control related recognition. So, that's also some extra coursework. And sometimes, depending on the loan, sometimes the lender will actually ask that an inspection be done that takes some consideration for whether or not there could be any pest-related problems, termites being the key one. But and if your inspector doesn't have that ability to, it doesn't have that extra coursework, it doesn't have that certification, you're going to have to hire a second inspector to do that portion of the inspection, and you're pushing the process back and you're holding up the deal. So I would ask about that. And also, even if your lender doesn't require that, right? In most cases, they don't. But even if they don't, you might want to get someone that is really, really educated on these things anyway, because you don't want to move into a new home that has a pest-related problem. You don't want that being overlooked, right? So I would ask them about stuff like that as well. I would ask them, hey, how astute are you at recognizing problems with roofs? How astute are you with recognizing problems with foundations? Do you, how astute are you with recognizing issues with mold? How astute are you with recognizing issues with electrical and plumbing? I would straight up ask them. And they may come back and say, hey, come on, I'm a home inspector, I know all this stuff. But I think I think these are good questions. I think you can ask stuff like that and expect a comfortable response. I think you should also ask them, hey, how available are you? Because if they're an inspector that is very, very busy, and you get an accepted offer on a purchase, and you need an inspector in there within the next day or couple days or 3 days, most cases, unless you get like an accepted offer on a Friday or something like that, or a Thursday towards the end of the week, then it might get pushed to the next week to do the inspection. But hey, if I get an accepted offer on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday, what are the odds that you're going to be able to get to that inspection like that same week, right? Like, how available are you? And if they say, man, we're just absolutely triple booked, that might not be a great inspector for you because you need someone that's going to be available, not necessarily on the fly, but on a couple of days' notice. It sure would be nice to be able to get somebody in there. There's some advantages and disadvantages to hiring a one-man or one-woman team versus a company that has a whole host of inspectors. So I guess one advantage to hiring a smaller company is you get, I guess, that personalized attention. But the advantage of hiring a little bit of a larger company is, if John, the inspector's not available on the date that you need them, they can kick that inspection over to Chris, the inspector, right? So you're not getting pushed back. So keep stuff like that in mind. Ask questions as needed. Again, your agent is always your first point of contact. So come on back to me or come on back to your agent if something doesn't feel right or something seems off, right? Come on back to your agent and talk to them and ask them about it. So this is a sort of a brief overview of how to go about intelligently hiring a home inspector. I hope that this has been very, very helpful for you. I would say definitely give it a go. And even though you don't need a home inspector immediately, you're not going to need one until after an accepted offer, do some of this hard diligence up front, right? Get on the phone and start doing some outreaches because you may get an accepted offer sooner than you might anticipate. And you want to have that inspector or a couple inspectors available at your fingertips when it comes time to go, right? You don't want to begin starting this interview process late in the game because you could lose your whole deal. So I recommend getting started often with this stuff. And even if you don't buy something right away, you'll always have that initial rapport that you built by making the calls up front. Bruce, I sure hope this was helpful for you. Have a great day.